late in setting it up. Today will probably be the last day with the Bhajan Rahasya. And tomorrow we're not going to have class because there we go. Huh. There we go. Wait a second. We were up to page 92 yesterday. No, not 92, 82. That's right, 82. Okay. Here we just started the last chapter. Okay. We'll have a quick kirtan. Just send a message out. Okay, and close my door. Quick kirtan, and then we'll get started. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Dhamini Kamate Shanupataya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurvani, Devasesha, Shunyavani, Shacha, Sarate, Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Nana. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Haribo Haribo Jai Om Vishnu Bhag Paramahamsa Paramahansa Ostentata Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanana, the Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON founder, Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Adanta Koti, Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Srinath Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagatha Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutle, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Chinamani, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pachari, Nivishesha, Shunyavadi Paschacha, Deja Tarane, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're going to finish our class reading commentary on the Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Just a few words of summary about Bhajan Rahasya. I know I've done this every day, just so you know. Bhajan Rahasya has 8 chapters, and each one of those 8 chapters deal with the different stage in devotional service, beginning with faith, and then continuing with association with devotees, performing devotional practices, bhajana kriya, getting rid of the anarthas, becoming steady in devotional service, getting a taste for Krishna consciousness and the holy names, becoming completely attached to Krishna, and then experiencing ecstatic emotions called bhava, and then finally prema, the final stage. And each one of those 8 chapters dealing with one of those stages of devotional service deals with a particular verse in the Shikshastika prayers. In other words, there's a corresponding verse for each one of the stages in devotional service. And also there's a corresponding time of the day in Krishna's Leela, which is called the Ashta Kaliya Leela. And also there's a corresponding pair of holy names in the Mahamantra for each one of these stages of devotional service, for each one of the times in Krishna's day, for each one of the Shikshastika verses, and for each one of the chapters in this book. So we got the 8 pairs of names: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 8. Okay. So now we're on the last chapter. Last chapter deals with the last verse in the Shikshastika prayers, which is complete absolute surrender, which also is connected with prema sambhojana. So in other words, meeting with Krishna, which is actually really important. That not you meeting with Krishna. So with Radharani meeting with Krishna. Okay. So we will continue. Om Ganat Timaranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So now I will share the screen. And as I am sharing the screen, I will also make the announcement that tomorrow we will not have class because I'm going to be out and about preaching, of course. And then the next day we're going to have class a half hour early because it's the Paniyati festival at the temple. And then for the next few days there's not going to be any class because I'm going to be traveling here and there. So we will see when we'll resume the classes. But actually this is the last day of the Bhajan Hasha. And this chapter begins, of course, with the last verse of the Shikshashtika, which we repeated yesterday and will repeat again. Aslishava pada vratam padashtama madarshana marmatam kurotava. Yata tata va billatu lambato mat pradalatas sevanapara. Whether he should embrace me, dedicated to his feet, or not allow me to see him and cause my body and mind to suffer, trampling on me. This lecherous person, that's Krishna of course, is still the only Lord of my life. The condition of the practitioner in this pastime is described. Marchu yada chakta samasta karma niveditatma vichikirshito me dadamra tattvam patipadyamano mayatma bhujaya jakapate. When a person who gives up all karmas offers himself entirely to me and eagerly desires to render service to me alone, he achieves freedom from death and, more important, is qualified to be an associate of mine in prema. In other words, give up all fruitive activities, even the desire for liberation, only desire to please Krishna, not even the desire to go back to Godhead. Then you become a pure devotee. And here's a very beautiful verse from the Manashiksha. Nadharmam nadharmam shutigana niruktam gilakuru Rajay Radhakrishna Parchoda Paricharyam Ihathanu Sachisunam Nandishra Pati Sutatve Guruvaram Mukunda Prishtatve Smara Paramajashram Nanumana. O mind, do not perform dharma or ardharma as described in the Vedas. In other words, don't perform pious activities or impious activities. You should perform transcendental activities. Intensely serve Radha and Krishna in Braj. Constantly remember the son of Sachi as the son of Nanda, and remember Guru as the dearest servant of Mukunda. That's, of course, from Raghunath Das Goswami's Manak Shiksha. This, of course, actually we read this yesterday, but it bears reading again. Na prema shravanadi bhaktirapi va yogatava vaishnavo gyanam vas yuvakarma bhakyadaho sajjatirapyastiva henartadika sadake tvai tatap yachedya mula sati hey gopi jana balava gayatayate ha ha mad ashaiva mam. I do not have prema or bhakti in the form of hearing, etc. I have no practice of meditation. This is humility, which is equivalent to prema. No practice of meditation of Vishnu in the Ashtanga Yoga process, nor do I have practices of jnana or varnashram duties. I do not even have good birth to execute these actions properly. But since you are most merciful to the least qualified, O dear lover of the gopis, although I have impure desires, my aspiration for you continues to agitate me. It's also called Ashabandha, hope against hope. And that should be our mood. Abject humility. We should not portray ourselves as advanced devotees. His eternal spiritual identity is described. Tukulam vibranam atakuchitate Kanjuka patam prasadam swaniya swakara taladatam pranayata sitam nityam pashvai vivida paricharayaika chaturam kisharim atmanam chatula parakiyam nukalaye. Will I become Radha's young maidservant devoted to serving her in various ways, constantly at her side, wearing her used silk bodice on my chest, which has been given by her hand personally? This is from the Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhi. The characteristics of his bhajan on attaining that bhava are described. This is from the Upadeshamrita. Tannama rupa chatati sukirtana tananu smrityo kramena rasana manasani yoja tishtan braje tadanuragi jananugami kalam nayeda kilam ichupadesha saram. One should spend all one's time engaging the mind and tongue in remembering and glorifying Krishna's name, form, and pastimes, living in Braj and following in the footsteps of the great devotees with great love for Krishna. Of course, we follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's footsteps are taking us to bring the conditioned souls back to his lotus feet and to Krishna's lotus feet. That's how we please Krishna. Krishna says, the person who preaches Krishna consciousness is most dear to him, and never will there be one more dear to him than he or she who preaches Krishna consciousness. His method of bhajan is described. Krishnam smaranjanam chasya prishtam nija sangitam tatam gataratascha karyadvasham brajay sadat. Remembering the Vrindavan form of Krishna and his dear associates who have inclinations for service similar to one's own, absorbing oneself and hearing topics related to them, one should always live in Braja. Of course, that's the standard for those on the Raganuga platform, that you actually have a particular inclination to serve Krishna in a particular way. That's a particular way. And then you think and meditate upon a eternal and eternal resident of Braj who is serving Krishna in that same way, and you put yourself under their direction. That's a very elevated subject matter. But we have the benediction of being able to put ourselves under the direction of an eternal resident of Braj, even though we're not at that high level, and that eternal resident of Braj is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. His mode of conduct is described. Evam vratasva priya nama kirtya jatanu rago druta chitta uchai asatyato rodati droti ayati umanavan rechati lokabaya. Regulated with such devotion, chanting the name of his dear Krishna, he develops prema. His heart melts and he laughs loudly, weeps, wails, and sings. He dances like a madman without regard for the public. That's from Bhagavatam 11:2-40. His steadiness in remembering the pastimes of Braj is described in a verse by Mahaprabhu. This verse is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's also the Padyavali by Rupa Goswami. Yakamara hara saiva hivaras taeva chaitrak shapas te konmilita malati surabhyaya pro da kadambani la sat chayavasmi tatapi tatatra surata yapara lila vidao reva rodasi vedasi taru tele cheta samutkantate. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover. Yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. Of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this in Jagannath Puri during the Rath Yatra. And what that means is that the Rath Yatra signifies the meeting of Krishna with the gopis. Where? At Kurukshetra. And when the gopis and Krishna met at Kurukshetra after many, many years, the gopis recognized Krishna, but they couldn't relate to how Krishna was behaving as like a king, and they couldn't relate to the atmosphere in Kurukshetra. So they said, Krishna, you have to come back with us. And that's the whole Rath Yatra ceremony, dragging Krishna back to Vrindavan. And it gets more specific in the next verse from the Pajavali, and also from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Priyasayam Krishna Sahachari Kurukshetra Viretas Tataham Sarara Tadaham Ubayo Sangava Sukham Tatapyantar Kilan Vadura Murali Panchama Jushe Manome Kalindi Pulina Vipinaya Sprihoyati. Having met beloved Krishna at Kurukshetra, I feel happiness at our meeting together. However, my mind desires the grove on the bank of the Yamuna, where the fifth note of the sweet flute plays in my heart. And of course, that's hankering to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. Because the devotees, they never want to leave Vrindavan, and they can't relate to Krishna when he's outside of Vrindavan. He's in a different mood. They want to relate to Krishna in an intimate way. In the same way that if someone's wife visits the husband at the workplace, and the husband's all dressed up in a tie and a jacket in a very official atmosphere, the wife will say to the husband, let's go home already. She doesn't want to hang around the business place. There's no intimate relationships at the business place. There are no pastimes to compare with those of Vrindavan, even those of Vaikuntha. Experience the bliss of pastimes in Braj with separation and union. Te tu sandarshanam jalpas parshanam vartma rodanam rasa brindavana krida yamuna jambu kelia no kela lilaya choryam gata kunjari linata marupanam badavesha dhriti kapata sutaptata Dutta krida pata kristish jumbash leishao nakar panam bimpar daras la panam samprayo gai deyo mata. These anubhavas, remember what we described anubhavas, were their voluntary actions when one feels ecstatic, are seen, speaking, touching, blocking the path, rasa dance, pastimes in Vrindavan, playing in the Yamuna's water, boat pastimes, stealing pastimes. These are all pastimes of Krishna and Radharani. The toll gate, hiding in a bower, drinking liquor, Krishna dressing as a woman, pretending to sleep, gambling, pulling clothing, kissing, embracing, scratching, tasting the lips in amorous union. And many of these pastimes, this is from the usual Nilamani, 15th chapter, 222 to 224. So many of these pastimes are described in detail by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And of course, these are all the pastimes of loving conjugal exchange between Krishna and Radharani and Krishna and the gopis. And these are prayers of pure devotees who are on that level of devotional service. Spuran mukta gunjamali sumana sam hararachale udendor lekame vachayatu tata sikshana vidim yatatai samgliptayar dayata sarasi madhya sadane sputam radha krishna vayam apijano bhushayati tau. May Induleka, she's one of the 8 principal gopis, teach me how to make necklaces of gleaming pearls, gunja berries, and flowers, so that I can ornament Radha and Krishna with those decorations in the bower of Radha Kund. And of course, this is someone who is situated on the level of prema, meditates like this internally while executing their external activities of preaching Krishna consciousness. One should recite a song expressing separation at forenoon. Tathagatam ritam tapta jivanam kaviviritam kama sapaham shavanamangalam shimadattatam bhuvi grananti yet puri dajana. The nectar of your words, this is a famous verse from the Bhagavatam actually, the nectar of your words and descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of the Lord are most munificent. And the next verse. Chalayasiyad rajach charayan pashun talina sundaram natate padam shila trinan kurai siddhatiti na kalilatam anakandagachiti. Dear Master, dear lover, when you leave the coward village to herd the cows, our minds are disturbed with the thought that your feet, more beautiful than a lotus, will be pricked by these spiked husks of grain and the rough grass and plants. Bhagavatam 10:31-11. So these are how the gopis are thinking. So we're trying, and not that we're trying, but one who's at this level is advised to enter into the mood of the gopis by hearing about their thoughts, their actions, their aspirations. And this is what's happening here. Atatiyad bhavan ani kananam truti gayate twam apashyatam kutila kuntalam shimukam chate jada udikshatam pakshma kridrisham. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its ornament of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which are fashioned by the foolish Creator. Bhagavatam 10:31-15, of course, that's their attitude towards Lord Brahma. Again, another verse by the gopis. Yate sujata kacharanam buruham staneshu vita shanai priya tadhimahi karakya sheshu tenatavim atasi tad vyatate nakim svit kurpadi vir brahmati dear bhavad ayushamna. O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. That's Bhagavatam again, 10:31-19. So if you really want to understand the gopis, these are the verses you should read, even though you may not be on the level of imbibing them fully, but still, these are the verses you should read to understand their mood. Their mood is not to try to enjoy Krishna, but to enhance Krishna's enjoyment. Try to understand that. Increase of love on meeting is described. Nikala bhuvana lakshmin richa elasa padabhyam kamala vipana viti garvan kushabhyam prana madat bhaya dana traudi gadadritbyam kimapi vahatuk cheta Krishna padam pujabhyam. May Radha's heart carry the happiness of Krishna's lotus feet, which completely crush the pride of rows of lotus groves, which are my eternal pleasure abode for all the beauty in the whole world, and for which are intensely worshipped for their power to give fearlessness to the surrendered gopis. Krishna Karnamrita by Mangal Thakur, number 12. Turunaruna Koranamaya Vipulayata Nayanam Kamalakucha Kalasivara Vipuli Kuta Pulakam Murali Rava Tarali Kuta Muni Manasa Nalinan Mama Kelatu Mada Chitasi Madhura Dharam Amritam. May that sweetness with tasty lips, with wide, long red eyes, which are youthful and compassionate, whose hairs are standing on end all over his body because of touching the pot-like breasts of Radha, whose flute song melts the lotus minds of persons who are proud and silent, play in my excited heart. Krishna Karnamrita 18 again. Mental service in the Siddhadeha of the worshipper is described. Now these are very, very, very elevated subject matters here, so please be careful. I don't even know if this is proper to give a class on this. Anyway, but these are the words of Shastra, and we're repeating them. We'll get purified just by hearing the words, even though we may not understand fully their implication. Of course, we understand the meaning, but not the implication, and we can't really realize it at this particular point. But at least we get purified by repeating the words of Shastra and the words of the gopis, which are within Shastra. Mitra Premagano Kiratis Tayora Sakti Karita Abhisara Dvayor Eva Sakya Krishnaya Samarpanam Naram Ashvasana Nepatyam Hridayol Gatapatatkatvam Chitra Samvritir Etasya Patyate Parivanchana Shiksha Sangamanam Kale Sevanam Rajanhadivi Tayor Dvayor Upalambya Sandesha Preshanam Yuktata Nayaka Prana Samraksha Pratyadnadya Sakhi Kriyaha. The activities of the Sakis consist of excellently glorifying the love and qualities of Krishna to the Nayaka. That's Radharani. And of the Nayaka to Krishna. Radharani is the Nayaka. Nayaka. Creating attachment between the couple, arranging meetings of the couple, offering the Saki to Krishna, joking, consoling, dressing the couple, expertly revealing the feelings of one lover to the other, hiding faults of the woman, cheating the husbands and others, advising, associating with the couple after they meet, serving the couple by fanning, etc., scolding the couple, delivering messages, and protecting the life of the Nayaka. That's from the Ujjala Nila Mani 898-99. Very elevated. I'm not going to go through explaining all these things. It's a very elevated subject matter. But just give submissive all reception to these words, and they will enter your heart. Bhavanti Vatkarna Vasayana Kata Tajoshana Dasha Upavarga Vartmani Shraratira Bhaktir Nukramishati. They will purify you. Tambularpana Pada Mardana Payo Dana Visara Divir Vrindaranya Maheshwarim Priyatyayas Toshayanti Priya Pranaprishta Sakhi Kulad Api Kila Shankochita Bhumika Kele Bhumishu Rupa Manjari Mukastha Dastika Samshrehe. I take shelter of the dear maidservants headed by Rupago Manjari, who with less reservation than the Prana Preshta Sakis please the Queen of Vrindavan by offering betel nut, massaging her feet, giving water, and arranging meetings with Krishna in the places of pastimes, from the Stavavali. Identity with one service is described. Nayam divyam kavyam swakritam atulam natakakulam prahele gudarta sakiruchiya vinadvani kati agada snehola shailanita lanita prana balat salajam gandharva sarasama sakrich Jikshayati Mam. O friend, at the insistence of gentle Lalita, with great joy, when will Radha slyly teach me new attractive poems, an incomparable drama written by herself, the deep meaning of riddles, and the attractive tunes on the Veena? This is from the Sankalpa Prakasha Stotra by Raghunath Goswami. Let's see how much more we have. Oh my God. And we're going to finish. These are really above our level of realization, but just hear submissively, even if you can't imbibe it fully into your consciousness. I mean, you won't be able to at this point. Vishvesham anuranjanena janayananandam indivara shreni shamala komalar upanayan angar anangotsavam swachandam rajasundari bir abhita Pratyangamalingita Shingarasaki Murtiman Ivamadao Mugdo Hari Kridati. Innocent Krishna plays in the spring as if he were the embodiment of love, while producing bliss in all beings by satisfying them, and establishes a festival of Cupid by all his dark, tender limbs, while the women in Braj freely embrace all of his limbs. That's from the Gita Govinda. The happiness of seeing Krishna is described. Yada yato daivam maru ripuraso lochanapatam tadasmakam cheto madana hattakena ritam abut punayasmin eshikshanam api drishoreti padavim avidai shamastasmin Akila Gatika Ratnaka Chita. Oh, but Dhanika, it is not my fault. When by any chance I see Krishna, then my heart, attacked by Cupid, becomes stolen away. When he becomes visible to my eyes for a moment, I will decorate all those moments with jewels. That's from the Jagannath Vallabha Nataka. 311. Okay. It's almost finished. Yeah. Night pastime is described. This is, I think, is the final verse. Yeah. Tavu utkaulabda sango bahu paricharanayar vrindaya rajamana bestali bir La Santa Vipana Viharanaya Gana Rasadi Lasyai Nana Lila Nitanto Pranaya Sahachari Vrinda Sang Sevyamana Radha Krishna Nishayam Sukum Suma Shayane Prapta Nidra Smarami. Radha and Krishna, having attained a meeting, were served by Vrinda with many items. They played with their friends, wandering in the forest, singing, performing ras and other dances, performing many pastimes, and served by Vrinda and her affectionate helpers. They then slept on a flower bed in the late night. I remember Radha and Krishna performing these pastimes. And of course, that's the last time segment in Krishna's day, the middle of the night. And the first one is waking up early in the morning, which we described when we were reading the first verse of the Bhajan Rahasya. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur finally explains, by contemplating the wealth of pastimes in 8 parts of the day during sadhana, one will attain the perfection of one's bhava. Now this happens when one is free of anarthas. Then you can do Raganuga sadhana. Not now. And you should get the permission of your spiritual master. And if you jump and you don't have the adhikar, you will create a disturbance in society. Yes, you will create a disturbance. A sahaja tendency will manifest itself, and others will follow your terrible example. The pastimes will manifest in the body of a gopi endowed with excellent qualities while one lives in Braj in this world at the stage of perfection. This is referring to someone who's an absolutely pure devotee, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Giving up the material body by the mercy of Krishna, one then experiences the world of the gopis in spiritual Braj, that means back to home, back to Godhead. One then serves Radha and Krishna at all times in a pure body without any contact with gross or subtle material bodies. One will easily achieve the highest full bliss and an eternally liberated state through chanting Hare Krishna. There's the operative phrase. That's it. That's all you got to do. Chant Hare Krishna purely, perfectly with your heart. See, brother, the name never loses its power during sadhana or perfection. Thus sing the name, make the name the essence, and do not consider any other sadhana. So in other words, by chanting Hare Krishna properly, all these things will manifest in the heart, and you will be able to properly understand and relish these different verses. But right now, you concentrate, I should concentrate, we should all concentrate on chanting with devotion, being absorbed in the holy name at the in the moment. Don't think of the present. Don't think of the past, sorry. Don't think of the future. Don't even think of the present. Just hear the sound vibration and absorb yourself in that transcendental sound. And in that transcendental sound is the form of the Lord, the qualities of the Lord, Nama, Rupa, Guna, and finally the Leela of the Lord. Everything is contained. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigra, Purnashchita Nichimukto, Vinatwam Namanamino. Everything is contained in the holy name. And all these things will become clear with the pure chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and chanting in the association of pure devotees who are dedicated. How do you know who's a pure devotee? Someone who is completely 100% dedicated to serving His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. That personality, it's a guarantee that that person is pure. Completely, 100% dedicated. Who has no other business other than to serve His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So with that in mind, we have just read the whole Bhajan Rahasya, and that's the last Bhajan Rahasya class. And now we will stop sharing and allow you to ask questions. And let's stop sharing. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand by going into the React window here and raise your hand, your electronic hand, and I'll allow you to unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat window. And just to announce, tomorrow we will not be having a class. The next day we'll be talking about Panihati a half hour earlier in the class. So we have a question here from Pranagopi. You can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my obeisances.
Haribo, all glories to Prabhupada. So, what's up?
Gurudev, what is a sahajiya or who is a sahajiya?
Sahaja means to take everything very, very cheaply. Basically, to think of yourself as being on a higher level of devotional service. We talked about the different levels of devotional service. Ado, Shraddha, Tata, Sarvasanga, I'll translate it. In the beginning, there's initial faith, not complete faith, but interest faith. It's a little bit of trust. You associate with the devotees. After that, we begin to execute devotional service, which is called Bhajana Kriya. And then after that, we start to get rid of the anarthas. Now, that's a really important stage to understand for us. We have all these anarthas, unwanted things like lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear. How about that? And there's more of them, but that's just the basic list. So as long as we have them to a large extent, then we cannot say that we're really progressing too much. We have to work on getting rid of these anarthas. How do we get rid of these anarthas? Again, chanting Hare Krishna, praying to Krishna whenever they rear up their ugly heads. And then the sign of being pretty much free of anarthas is called nishta. We're steady 24/7 in Krishna's service. 24/7 means not only in our chanting and our sadhana in the morning, but throughout the rest of the day. The rest of the day, we're vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam. We're controlling our tongue, belly, genitals, mind, anger, and words, not just during the sadhana process. And then, when we're actually achieve nishta, and then we're beginning to have a real taste for chanting, then at that point, one can begin to think about their spiritual identity in the spiritual world. At that point, one can ask the spiritual master or another pure devotee, what should I do about this? And there'll be some advice, facilitation more than advice given. And then one can start to think of it. But if one starts to think of these things or project himself into Radha Krishna's pastimes prematurely, that's sahaja. Because it creates a disturbance, because you may, not you, but someone may be thinking of Radha Krishna's pastimes prematurely, but they'll be projecting their material understandings of some, let's say, some Bollywood movie they watched, or some exchange with their husband or wife or something like that. And I think it's just like that, Krishna kissing the gopis is like, when I kiss my cat. That's funny. Kiss my dog. My brother used to kiss his pets all the time. My brother would kiss his dog right on the mouth, his cat right on the mouth, and also his turtle right on the mouth. So you may... Sorry for giving a gross example, but it's actually funny, so I couldn't resist. So anyway, so that's really the point. That's what sahaja is, to think it's like something in this material world. Basically, to think, without saying it in so many words, that Krishna has a material body, that Radharani has a material body. You don't think like that directly, but you're implicitly thinking of that. And some of the sahajas, they actually dress like gopis and think that's called Saki Beki. They think that they're actually becoming gopis because they're dressing like gopis. Anyway, the main thing is that they think they're more advanced than they are. So devotional service means being honest. I was having a discussion with one of my friends today, and we were talking about honesty, that the leaders in our movement need to be really honest as far as who they are, their level of realization. Honest with themselves, first of all. The first lying process or cheating process begins with oneself. That's the first aspect of cheating. You cheat yourself before you cheat others. It's a very interesting realization, because you think so much of yourself, so advanced. I've been so many years in the movement, and I'm an advanced devotee, I'm a guru, and things like that, or sannyasi, or whatever, you're Mataji, or whatever you happen to be. And therefore, pride goes before the fall, and then you tend to engage in activities or engage in hearing and chanting that's above your pay grade. I'm sure you've heard that expression before, pay grade. It's a modern expression. And then that's what's called sahaja. For example, reading these different literatures, if I was to get into, some of the verses we've just been reading, if I were to get into really describing them in intimate depth and then crying while I was doing it, that would be sahaja. And I would just, oh Radha, oh Krishna, oh isn't it wonderful, oh Radha, 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 oh Krishna, your lotus feet are so sweet. Showing some emotions. Even if I was on that platform, it wouldn't be appropriate, because it would encourage people to take things cheaply. It's not cheap. And we find people outside of the movement who try to lure devotees away by promising them some higher level of devotional service than they're actually ready for. And this happens all the time, especially when people go to Radha Kund. And they go to Radha Kund, and the Babaji tells them, hey, Gopi, Gopi Premanjana Charita Bhaktivilochena Dasi. So, I recognize you. And they go, wow, finally someone's recognizing how advanced I am. That's what a sahaj is. And then we have that tendency. We want it. We want things to be easy and cheap. Just like, one time I was in New York. Okay, here's an example. And in New York, they have all these different stores there, and they selling all sorts of cheap electronics. I was just thinking, wow, this is ecstasy, because that's my mind saving money. Anyway, so then I saw something that was like half the price of anything I've seen before. One of these small stores in New York. So I went there and I said, "Can I buy this?" I forget what it was, some stupid thing. That was before computers. And I bought it, and I thought, "Wow, I got a bargain here." So I opened it up, and it says rebuilt, renewed or something like that. I mean, it worked, but and then also in New York, you walk in the street, and so many people are selling you Rolex watches. Yeah, and it really looks like a Rolex watch. Rolex watches. So there's some of the Rolex watches that sell for 5, 10,000, even more money. So they said, "Hey, buddy, you want a watch?" And so I never bought one. I wasn't that stupid. You know, I may want a bargain, but I I could smell a rotten fish a mile away. So therefore, but I see it all the time in New York. There's people who line up with all sorts of watches and everything for sale. You get what you pay for. And in Krishna consciousness, you get what you pay for. If you don't have full surrender to Krishna, then if you try to enter into Krishna's rasa dance, you get what you pay for, which is actually putrefaction rather than purification. Actually, it's a good question about sahaja. So, who else has a question? Raise your hand, or you can text me if you like. If not, we can actually end class. I want to thank you all. So there won't be any class tomorrow because I'll be out and about. And the next day we're going to have class a half hour early. It's going to be about Panihati Festival because it's the Sunday program here. And then I guess the rest of the week, yeah, I will be traveling here and there, and we won't be able to give this class. So we'll let everybody know when we're able to continue. So on that happy note, thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace.